Hi,
My name's JC McCauley.
I'm Nyesha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org. Imagine walking through the city of Hartford. Maybe you're in Keeney Park or downtown Hartford, Bushnell Park or Park Street, and you're noticing some improvements around the city, like a new bus shelter or, a new project being developed that you actually were involved in or had a hand in making. How would that make you feel? Would you feel like this was your city and that you had a voice and that you mattered? Well, if that's true, if that sounds like something you could get into, you really want to lock into today's Civic Beat because we are talking about Hartford Decides. Welcome. I'm Nyesha McCauley, and to talk about Hartford Decides, I have two great guests that I want to bring into the room here. And talk about all things Hartford Decides because they just released their annual report. And I tell you, it's beautiful. If you haven't received a copy, I'm going to tell you how to get one because you're going to get excited too. So welcome to Civic Beat, Zoe and Evie. Welcome in.
Hi, thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for having us this morning.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I tried to lay a little bit of a teaser of a foundation of what Hartford Decides is, but I also want folks out there to know who you both are. So Zoe, please tell us a little bit about who you are and how you're involved with Hartford Decides.
Yeah, so my name is Zoe Chatfield, and I'm the current board chair for Hartford Decides. We are a volunteer working board, and we are leading the charge on participatory budgeting in the city. Hartford Decides is the only participatory budgeting initiative in the state right now, but it is a worldwide phenomenon. And yeah, that's me. But I'd like to also give a special shout out to Evie, and she will do her own intro, but as a volunteer working board, she really is like what keeps us going.
Wow, thank you.
Evie, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came involved in your role with Hartford Decides.
My name is Evie Cartagena. I was raised in Hartford, so I'm very familiar with Hartford. Graduated from Buckley in '05, shout out. And I've always kind of been involved in a lot of civic engagement things that are happening in Hartford, and there are a lot actually. If you just have to do one search and you'll see a lot of organizations that are doing a lot of good. I came across Hartford Decides from but the previous program manager, oh yeah, I am the program manager. I should have said that first. Hartford Decides, and I just fell in love with it, and I was able to take on this role, and now I'm here with you guys, and just hoping to get participatory budgeting, really rolling in Hartford.
Yeah, so let's unpack that word a little bit, Zoe, because I think while people may be familiar with Hartford Decides, we're using terms that may not be so new to the city. Even though Hartford Decides is 10 years in at this point. This initiative started in 2015. Participatory budgeting, I think, is not in our everyday conversation. So can you break that down? What is participatory budgeting?
Yeah, so the concept overall, it actually started in Brazil in the 80s. And it is the idea that these are public funds, it's public money, and in order to really fairly decide how that money gets spent, you get the community to participate in that process. And in our case, The way that it functions is we have a certain budget allocation from the city. This is city money that would be going towards capital funds and capital projects no matter what. But the difference here is that we get to work with residents to come up with the ideas, and then we get to work with the city on implementing those ideas. And in between that, people get to vote, because the reality is, with any budget, I think the biggest thing that you start to realize the more you work with money is that there's always limited money. So how do we decide as a community how to spend it? And that's where the voting comes into the participatory budgeting process for Hartford, so that everyone can take a look at the awesome ideas around the community and then voice their vote towards what they think should have that money be spent. And it looks different in different places. It looks different in different settings. So the way that we do participatory budgeting isn't, it's not one size fits all, but that's kind of the process that we take. And I think something that's really important for what we do is that our voting process gives people voices that get missed in the normal voting process. So we are able to let people vote as young as 10 years old. So we have youth really involved in the vote, and we're not, we want to make sure that you're a Hartford resident. So we do ask you to put your street address, or at least, what street you live on, and what your zip code is. However, we're not asking for IDs. We're not checking your voter registration status, your citizenship status. We're not checking any of that. So if you are a Hartford resident, you get to have a say.
That really is, I think, the what I understand the heart of Hartford Decides being, and Evie, you can speak a little bit to this, is like, the city has money that they are going to spend on improvements in the city. And what Hartford Decides is doing is just saying, hey, residents, you can have a voice, or you can tell us like how we should be spending that money. How do you work with the city of Hartford? Like, how do you determine how much money the city is going to give us? I should say us as a Hartford resident, how much money the city is going to let us have control over. How does that get decided?
That would probably be a good question for Zoe, but I can answer it with my best knowledge. It is something we do try to talk to the council members and the mayor to just kind of emphasize the importance. Do we lobby for Hartford Decides funds? No, not necessarily. But it is something that is determined by, that set budget. And, we do advocate for more, and we want the city to advocate for more. We even have a button that is pre-filled with a prompt on our website, hartforddecides.org. Where you can tell the city, hey, this sounds like a great idea. I want to be able to have more funding so I can have a say in my neighborhood. So, that is my take on it. But Zoe, you might have more information on how that process works if you want.
Yeah, so every year the city puts together a budget. The way that it usually works is that the mayor's office puts together his proposed budget for the city, and then they present it. Actually, right now, there's opportunities to go to some public presentations of the budget. I don't know the exact dates, but it is out there, and I do recommend everyone get informed. This is the opportunity to get informed of the whole city budget. But basically, from there, city council reviews the budget items. There's individual presentations that happen, and Hartford Decides is one line item in the much bigger budget. Generally, our allocation comes from capital improvement funds. So the city has an overall capital projects budget, and that goes towards physical infrastructure and improvements around the city. from that big umbrella, they decide to allocate a certain amount of money. So this year, we have $100,000. Currently, that's what's in the proposed budget for next year as well. And basically what that means, but it's not a set amount. No one sat and said, okay, we agree that every year this is the amount of money we're going to get, which is an opportunity every year to say, hey, we could put more towards this. The first year of Hartford Decides, Nyesha, as you pointed out, we have been around for almost 10 years now. We've had 7 project cycles. So, because that first year was really just getting things off the ground. So there was no projects. It was that first year. But the first year of the projects, Hartford Decides had $1 million.
Oh, wow. I did not know it was that much. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And with that first year, you might remember Hartford Paints the City. So that was a first year Hartford Decides project. And those murals are all around the city that you may see. And now you'll know that because I remember voting, because part of that process, that first year, was voting on the specific proposed murals for each location.
Right.
And so that is all to say, that piece, the budget allocation, is another piece of our goal with our larger civic engagement and civic education mission, that the budget is fluid to a certain extent. There's services that the city provides that need to get funding. But within that, how we choose to distribute that money is something that is part of the yearly civic project. And it's something that we last year testified to council about the importance of what our budget allocation is and does. But every year is a new opportunity to expand that.
Yeah, I would imagine so, because to go from like $1 million and you to now 100,000, I guess it really will depend upon the administration, the mayor and the city council, as to how much they are going or be willing to allocate. So that means your relationship with the mayor and our relationship with the mayor and the city council as residents really can make a difference in determining what that number is going to be, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah. And I think the more that people express their support, the more weight there is behind it. Because it's one thing for me as board chair or Evie as program manager to say, hey, we think what we're doing is important, like you should give us more money. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we want to continue to deepen our work and our impact so that other people in the city see the value. And if people are seeing the value, then they'll advocate and not only advocate for Hartford Decides, but advocate for themselves. We know what we want to see in our communities, and we want our organization and our participatory budgeting process to be one avenue for helping make what we want to see in our communities possible. That's right.
And so I mentioned your annual report, which I think is the first one being released to the community. And what I remember that first year, 2015, Hartford Decides, because someone pulled me in to be a part of that process, and I just couldn't believe that we're now 10 years in. And I think the annual report to the community could be one of those extra tools to state how important this, or what the impact, I guess, of Hartford Decides has been. And I want to bring Evie back into the conversation just to, I think reports are fine. And for those who read organizational annual reports, that's one aspect of understanding the impact of an organization. But I think another real way to understand the impact of an organization is just by talking to people and getting their reaction. And so, Evie, I'm just wondering, when you're talking to people, either past project champions or people who may be engaging in the voting process, what has been the reaction? What are people saying to you as far as how they think about Hartford Decides?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question because there are two parts to that answer. When I first introduced Hartford Decides, you have the people who think it's a great idea and they believe in it. They think, they should have a say. And somewhat, I think you could tell, like in their background, they've had experience with civic engagement. Because that's what Hartford Decides is trying to facilitate here. It's not just about the projects. We are sneakily putting the broccoli into the chicken nugget with the civic engagement kind of piece because we want people to know, hey, if we get together, there's nothing more powerful, not the mayor, not the council members. There's nothing more powerful than the people's voices. And not to say that the mayor or the council members aren't for the people's voices, because we have a lot of support from council members that say, if you can get the residents to tell us they like this idea, they want to advocate for it, we're listening because we want to listen. But we have the people who think it's a great idea and they participate, and then we have the people who are a little bit older, who've been in Hartford, a longer time, who have been historically, felt neglected, who kind of scoff at it in a way, and they say, oh, that's nothing. But, I'm out there. I get it. I grew up in Hartford. I've had the same feelings sometimes. But when you start to actually participate and when you start actually to speaking to the people who are trying to, the organizations that are trying to outreach for these kind of, you know, incentives or initiatives, you start to see, okay, there are people trying to do a lot of good in Hartford. We just need the people to come and join us, meet me halfway, maybe not halfway, maybe a quarter way. So I do come across people who do express, maybe some doubt but I turn them around because then I'm like, okay, I had a group of ladies at the Barber Library and they were upset because I was there at the end of the cycle where it was voting, and they had expressed, well, I don't feel like I want to vote on this because I didn't get to, have a say in what the projects were. And I'm like, bet next year we set up a whole different, very personal, civic engagement session, participatory brainstorming session with them. And, they were excited. They were participating. They were throwing out ideas. And the best thing about this process is that the city can't have eyes everywhere, but the people who live in that neighborhood do. So they know exactly where to put bus shelters, or they know exactly what streets need to be taken care of. They're more they're a good resource for us and for the city to know how to improve Hartford overall. So yeah, I love the aspect of going out to the community. That's my wheelhouse where I go and I talk to the residents, and it's a blast. Sometimes you do get the negative comments, and I brush those off because I get it. I don't dismiss it. There are times where Hartford has let their residents down, but there are a lot of times, and there's a lot of hard work that Hartford's doing to make it a place that is, everyone loves, and we're just trying to empower people to be a part of that change.
Absolutely, and thank you for that answer, because I do understand the skepticism as well, right? It's like, well, Hartford decides, but Hartford also may not listen necessarily. So tell me a little bit about and either one of you could answer. The annual report does give you a sense of like the history of Hartford Decides. Zoe, as you mentioned, going back to that Paint the City. What's the status overall of like the projects that have been implemented, and where are they, and how are you going about like tracking them. Tell us a little bit about that process, and you both can tag team this question, the answer to this question as well. Like, how do you stay involved once a project has, come to fruition, taking life, and the city now has put it out there?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and it's something that has been part of our recent um, focus as our board has strengthened and grown. Because so Hartford Decides has been around since 2015, but we only established as a nonprofit organization in order to kind of be the facilitators of the process instead of just, a group of people wanting to make it happen a little more informally. 3 years ago now, 4 years ago. So it's been a lot of learning over those recent years of how do we kind of create the structures for success so that we can keep engaging people on a yearly basis. We don't have that much time in between when we have winning projects and then when we get back and start again with project ideas. And so in that, we also need to track the projects that did win. And so that's been a recent initiative of ours with our finance committee. So they manage our organizational budget, but they also are looking at, okay, here's the funds and all of the quotes that we got when we were doing the project development. Here's the winning project. And we're going to make sure that we follow up with the proper city agencies on making these happen. Which means, because depending on what the project is, somebody else is responsible for it. So a lot of the time it's the Department of Public Works. Sometimes we are involved with the Friends of and Parks Commission, because a lot of these project ideas, especially actually this coming cycle, are park related. We have to follow up with schools if it's for a school, community centers if it's for a community center. And so there are a lot of different moving pieces that need to be engaged in order to make sure a project goes from an idea to a reality. And actually that's part of what we wanted to have be in the report as well, is that educational piece of, first of all, we're not seeing any of that money. It's city money. We're helping facilitate that decision process, but then the city spends it, and the proper city agency or organization or department, whether it's a library, a school, a park, public works, is the one that is then getting the money to do the thing. So in terms of tracking, we do have a handy dandy list. I don't have it handy dandy right now, but we have a short list of the projects that we have left that need to be completed. And actually we've already started planning for our next annual report after this next cycle. We want to dive deeper into, here's all the places that you can find existing Hartford Decides projects that have been completed. And here's the projects that are still in process and why they're still in process, because that why is another piece of the civic puzzle. Because the reality is, especially for a capital project, because there's moving parts, because there's different departments that might need to be involved, or different permits or different approvals, it doesn't happen overnight. And, I think we live now in a society, a little bit of that instant gratification of like, okay, like, where is it now? And that's just not how the municipal wheels turn.
Right.
And so part of our next, moving forward, our next kind of civic project for that education piece is connecting those dots. Here's the project idea, and here's who we need to involve in order to make it happen. Our last year's winning projects, one of them was improved bus benches and or bus amenities for 14 stops around the city. And what that means is we had to engage DPW, and then we had to engage the Connecticut DOT, the Department of Transportation. We needed to talk to the right people, and then based on that, that's part of that continued conversation and that timing. is part of what we have to continue to engage to make it happen. And that's something that, you're not thinking about until you have to think about it. Who are the people that need to be involved and who are the organizations that need to be involved to get to that final piece. So
Yeah. No, I totally can see that. And I guess that is it's just I'm glad to hear the evolution, if you will, as well, in Hartford Decides in this process, because yeah, I could see where a project can take a long time, and that could lead to some of that disaffectedness that we know can happen with a Hartford resident when they're not seeing the result of, like, well, I voted for it. Now where's the project, right? Like, so I think there's more of this type of educating the public about the process that could go a long way. So I'm so grateful that the two of you took some time out this morning. And believe it or not, we're already coming up towards the end of the program, and there's so much more that we could unpack with Hartford Decides. But I know you're going to be back, so there's more opportunity because there's voting. We're gonna roll into a voting season very shortly. So I'm going to ask you both to do two things. Is one, I really want people to get their hands on that annual report. So Zoe, if you could speak to that. And then Evie, if you can just follow up with, like, give people a teaser or a heads up as to projects, ideas, and voting, and that whole process that is about to kick off as well. So Zoe, where can we find the annual report?
So you can find the annual report very, very easily if you go to our website, hartforddecides.org. Right at the top of the page, right next to About Us, is a button that says Annual Report. Click it and it will open and you will get the report right away. We do have some hard copies. So if you wanted to read a hard copy, you can also shoot us a message directly. There's a contact us button, or reach out via Instagram, Facebook, email. Email is best. But it's right there. And then the final little plug I wanted to say about the annual report that, kind of goes off of the fact that these projects take time, but also the fact that these projects can only hit on a small portion of all of the bigger things that people in the city want to see for improving Hartford. The end of our report is called the Report to the City, and it basically captures what we heard in our brainstorming sessions from the last year that couldn't make it onto the ballot as a project, but we still think is really important to make sure that those ideas and concerns are communicated from what we heard from residents to the city itself. So check it out.
All right, thank you. And Evie, tell us what's coming up next.
Yeah, so we kick off the voting on April 15th, and it goes on for a whole month, so until May 15th. So, we try to make it as accessible as possible. We have in-person events coming up, and you can just follow us on Instagram or on Facebook, and you'll see the upcoming events if you want to speak to us in person and vote in person. But you can also vote online. You also can vote on your mobile phone. We have about 9 projects on the ballot right now, and we've introduced rank voting because we know that's important, and we want to know the residents' priorities in the projects, even though 1 or 2 or maybe 3, depending on the scalability, can win. We do want to know where these projects land on people's priorities. So yeah, we have a couple of fun events that you can meet us on. We have, uh, some Hartford Public Library events. We don't have any particular, personal events that we're issuing, but you could find us online and definitely find us in person once we have those dates up. We will also provide the project summaries on social media so people can have a look at them and read exactly what they are, how much they cost, where are the locations, and essentially who's going to benefit, which is mostly Hartford residents. Yeah, so that's what's coming up.
All right. Excellent. Excellent. Thank you so much for joining me here on Civic Beat. Like I said, we're going to have Evie back here later on in the month, but please continue to follow them along. It's about us, Hartford, and we get to decide how our money is being spent, and so it's a wonderful opportunity for all of us to get engaged and get involved and get off of the sideline and get into an actual physical project that you could see come to life right here in our city. So Hartford Decides, again, thank you so much. This has been a great episode talking with you both, and I will be out there doing my part and cheerleading you on because I think it's just a really worthwhile project for a lot of different reasons. So Hartford, you get to decide. Make sure you do it. You also get to decide what you watch. So keep it locked in. Civic Beat is going to be doing some great programming for the rest of the year. We're going to have some great guests on. So we want you to continue to follow along as we continue to talk to the people and individuals who are doing some really cool things in the city of Hartford. So till next time, be well.
Let me know.